video forms?
No.
Yes.
Okay, if you do have them, I'll collect them now. If you don't, you can bring them tomorrow. Thank you to those of you who brought them today. You guys will get candy.
All three of them. I'm Mackenzie for us.
Oh man, I want to keep them
Okay.
You should came prepared, Ava.
All right, so we have 3 speeches that we're going to start off with. Do you guys remember the speech rules? What are
Be a
they?
good audience.
Be a good audience. What does that mean?
Listen.
Listen, be respectful, and nothing on your desk, right? So that the person speaking isn't distracted. Okay. Ava, do you want to go first?
I go after.
Sure. I don't have that thing.
Okay. That thing is,
I lost it.
that's okay. If you want to fill it out and maybe go
that's fine.
third because that's not my greater speech.
I'll go first. You give me
Okay.
1 second.
That's cool, Matt. Do you have your thing?
I also have this one.
Elizabeth, do you have that paper? Okay, cool. Just give me 1 second. Okay, whenever you're ready.
My speech was about gun control. Okay. 90% of the American people support universal background checks and make it harder for dangerous people to buy a gun. Trayvon Martin, Sandy Hook, the Colorado school shooting, Congresswoman Gabrielle Guilford shot in Arizona, and the Batman theater shooting all could have been prevented if you had background checks before buying a gun. Did you know that close to 33,000 people were victims of gun-related death in 2011? This is a quote from Eliot Spitzer, the former governor of New York. Yes, people do pull the trigger, but guns are the instrument of death. Gun control is necessary, and to delay means more death and honor. My argument that guns should be banned from the general public, or more security checks before being able to purchase a gun, reducing the amount of gun-related death each year. I would like to point out another number. In 2013, 11,419 people died in gun-related deaths. Also in 2013, 500,002 in 25 years of life were stolen. So that's how many years of life were taken away from guns. If you didn't get that. And these deaths are unnecessary and can easily be prevented by banning guns, or releasing the security to purchase a firearm. My second point is how people talk about how guns protect you, but why do you need protection if no one else has a gun? And that would make the world more peaceful. I looked up a definition of gun, and it is a weapon incorporating a metal tube from which bullet shells and other missiles are propelled by explosive force. This sounds like a machine with one purpose, and that's to kill. And so guns they're not used for anything else but to kill, so we don't need them. But and then others disagree with this statement that I just said, and some believe in the Second Amendment. People like hunters appreciate the idea of guns because that's how they get their food. But how many people can say they eat deer, duck, or goose on the regular? Most of us eat cows, chicken, and pigs, and some of us might not even eat meat. So my point is that most of our food comes from farms and animals, but those animals aren't shot by guns or slaughtered, so you don't really need a gun to get food. In conclusion, I want to say that guns should not be accessible to the general public. There's no need, but there is a need for police to have possession of guns to enforce laws and protect us. And also the military should be able to have guns, and that's to protect America. Yeah.
I really like how you did the definition of that. That's cool. All right, Elizabeth?
Great job. Thanks, man. You almost made me laugh.
Do you all want to know
know something that can higher your GPA, fewer your suspensions, and give you better attendance? Studies show that simply doing extracurricular activities leads to all three. Playing music in a band, participating in sports, or joining a club can make you better off. I, being someone who has participated in many outside of school activities, have seen improvement in my own life. Extracurricular activities are greatly beneficial to students' lives, inside and outside of school. While researching, I came across many studies that show that academic scores are higher in students that participate in outside of school activities. But why is that? On average, those students have a 15% higher attendance rate. This is because the habits of timeliness and attendance are taught through these activities, and a higher attendance rate directly leads to higher grades. You may be thinking, how could this be? Don't outside things take up time and not give kids as much time to do work? True. However, when kids have lots of work to do and a lot of time to do it in, they tend to put it off and procrastinate. In contrast, when students have little time to do work, they sit down and get it done as efficiently as possible. Likewise, when playing sports versus not playing sports, I can see a difference in my own grades. Throughout middle school, I played 2 sports a year, leaving me without a sport in the winter. I always thought that my grades would be better off during that season because I had more time to do my work. But instead, I procrastinated because I had more time, which led to my grades overall being worse. In the same way, participating in extracurricular activities helps keep kids out of trouble. Though the activities themselves do not, they do occupy a lot of the kids' extra time that could be used for mischievous things. Not to mention that many activities, sports in particular, have consequences for kids that get in trouble. Because of that, many kids are motivated to not get involved in risky behavior. In conclusion, participation in outside sports, clubs, and bands can lead to better grades, attendance, and less trouble outside of school.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't realize that. I thought I turned it off.
It's okay. It happens.
Yeah, dude.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Hilarious. All right.
Tell us. What song is
Ava, you almost ready?
Yeah, just like 1 second.
Okay.
There's a backside, you know that, right? Just tell me.
All right, good job, you guys, so far. These speeches are really, really awesome. I can tell you guys put a lot of work into them. Did you guys enjoy this? Do you like writing them?
Yeah, I like speaking on it too.
Yeah. Did anyone else like doing this speech, actually giving it,
Besides Thomas.
other than Thomas? More than writing it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right, Ava.
Okay.
I should have said 5. That's fine. It just needs your major points.
Go get her, Eva. Oh, my God.
Okay.
Most of us remember Christmas or Easter mornings, brightly wrapped gifts and baskets of candy dressed with ribbons, and waking up after losing your first tooth to shiny coins under your pillow. Though the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and Santa Claus might be the highlights of our childhood, did our parents really do the right thing by telling us lies? My answer is no. Although our younger years were great with them, I believe it could have been better if the lies about reality were never placed into our minds in the first place. Sorry about that. My first reason being the safety of the matter. Have you ever heard the story of a kid who walked downstairs late at night to find a mysterious man taking things from under the tree? Under the influence of the beliefs in Santa Claus, this child could be putting himself and others in serious danger, not knowing that this person is a threat, a robber. Without the image of it being okay for a strange man to sneak into your house in the middle of the night, leaving toys in exchange for cookies and milk, children would be safer around strangers and in dangerous situations. My next reason to eradicate the beliefs in these magical beings is the variation in beliefs of between different people. This can lead to awkward situations and people being left out. The sensitive topic of Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or the Tooth Fairy in elementary or middle school can cause bullying and unkindness if one child doesn't know or does one child doesn't know soon enough. This creates bigger problems for people whose religions don't participate in some traditions. This topic is too sensitive and hard to bring up, so we should get rid of it to make it everything fair. I remember, well, this is my last reason. I remember when I found out my childhood heroes weren't real. I was crushed. It felt like all the magic had been taken out of my life. I feel like that if I was never told about the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, or Santa Claus, my childhood would have been more realistic. I was, in fact, never told about Santa Claus, but my parents assumed that I knew already. So one year I didn't get presents for Christmas from Santa Claus, and I was really sad. I could have grown up not having unrealistic expectations about the world. Overall, I think children's lives would be a lot easier without the influence of magical beings, so that they could grow up to have more realistic points of view.
Good. Thank you, Nina.
And actually, I really don't believe in any of that. I just wrote it because I wanted to. So I'm really happy that my parents made up Santa Claus.
I think that's a good argument, though, and it sounded convincing, which is the point of a persuasive speech. So you did well. Good job.
They told me about the Tooth Fairy.
Okay, so what we're going to continue with now is a game. Shakespeare's language, and then we're going to play a game that involves it. Okay. So what did we talk about yesterday when we talked about language in the 16th century? What kinds of things did we say?
Now, art.
Okay, so some of the words are foreign. What else did we talk about when we were discussing Shakespeare's language? Why it might be difficult to read Shakespeare? Yeah.
Because it was written to be acted, not read.
Okay, good. It was written to be acted, right? It was written to be listened to. So as an audience, you would be able to watch it and hear it. Whereas if you're just reading it, if you were just going to sit down and read Romeo and Juliet, it might be a little bit more difficult, right? Because you're just reading words off of a page. And some of them might be unfamiliar. But what we're going to talk a little bit about today is that you probably don't even know how familiar some of the words that Shakespeare invented are to us, but were unfamiliar to them at that time period. Okay, so some of Shakespeare's words or phrases are completely unfamiliar to us. And that's why when we read Romeo and Juliet later this week and next week, you're going to see some, in the margins, some definitions that will help translate that. And some of the words are very familiar to us, but we actually use it differently than we did in the 16th century. So they're hard to understand. A really cool example of this is, did anybody in here play tennis? Yeah? Okay, so what is it called when the ball hits the net if it goes over on a serve? Yeah, a let. Yeah, it's called a let, right? So when we say, if I say I'm going to let you guys go early today, what does let mean? Allow. Good. But in tennis, a let, when it hits the net and goes over, it actually means to hinder or to stop. The net is stopping the ball from going over. Shakespeare created that word, and the definition was to hinder or to stop. But when you're reading Shakespeare, you already know that the word let means to allow, right? But it meant something really different in that time. So it's kind of cool. It can be a little bit confusing, but it is cool when you see the origins of words and what they used to mean and what they mean now. Luckily, Shakespeare invented over 3,000 of the words that we use today. So he didn't just create all of them out of thin air. He created them by changing nouns into verbs, changing verbs into adjectives, connecting words that had never been used before. We'll see a couple of those during this game. And then adding prefixes and suffixes to the beginning or ends of words to change them around. And then he also just completely makes them up. Some of the words that he made up didn't stick. So we're going to read some words that not only, were foreign when he made them up to the people who were listening, but we still don't know now because they just didn't stick. They weren't very good words. But a lot of the words that he made up stuck through the time, so it's really cool. As always, phrases. So here are a few phrases that Shakespeare contributed to our language. Heart of gold, knock knock, who's there, wild goose chase, fair play, foul play, come what may, lie low, vanish into thin air, a piece of work, good riddance, a sorry sight, fight fire with fire, break the ice, laughing stock, naked truth, and seen better days. Do you guys know some of these phrases? Yeah?
Piece of work.
Pretty much all of them, right? I mean, a lot of them are really, really familiar. Shakespeare created all of these. Isn't that kind of crazy to think about words and phrases that we know just like easily were invented by the guy that we're about to start reading? So my question to you is, do you think it is more difficult or less difficult for us to understand Shakespeare than the audiences in the 16th century?
Less.
More.
Ooh, okay, Ava, less difficult. Why do you think so?
Well, a lot of back then he created a lot of phrases, so people would have, although we had difficulties telling whether or not some of them are, have different definitions, most of them, for their time, had different definitions, or just weren't even words at all.
Good. Okay, yeah, that's a really good thought.
It's like having to read.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really good thought. Ava's bringing in the fact that if he's creating all these words, then his audiences wouldn't have known what they meant, right? What do you think, Thomas?
I think that it would be more difficult for us because we won't understand it as much as the people back then because it's like a TV show like our parents watched. It's not going to be funny to us, but it will be funny to them because of the time period.
Okay. So the context, maybe the jokes that are made, and even some of the language that's used every day. Niels, what do you think?
I was gonna say that I think we have a better education than they were having, so it would be easier for us to understand.
Oh, that's a really good thought. So not only do we have a better education, because a lot of the audience that would have been watching Shakespeare's plays were illiterate, right? But we also have dictionaries, and we have help reading and understanding the play that they might not have had. Okay. Any other thoughts about this? Okay. All right. So we're going to play this game. I'm going to put a word on the board, and we are going to have teams for this. So obviously your team is your group. Okay, so this is going to be team 1. Okay, team 1, team 2, team 3, and y'all are team 4, okay? Okay. So there's going to be a word on the screen, and you guys have to decide quickly in your group about whether or not you think it's a word that Shakespeare invented, okay? And then the next slide will tell you whether or not you're right. If you think it is Shakespeare, then hold up the Shakespeare sign. Are you guys listening? If you think it is Shakespeare, hold up the Shakespeare sign. If you think it's not a Shakespeare word, hold up the non-Shakespeare sign, okay? You ready? And discuss it in your groups, unless, yeah. You also might want to discuss quietly because other groups might hear you.
Not Shakespeare.
Ryan's such a smart person.
All right, you have a few seconds. Hold them up. All right, everybody says Shakespeare.
Not Shakespeare.
It is Shakespeare. Good. It was first used in the play A Midsummer Night's Dream. Isn't that crazy? He's the first person who put bed and room together to make the word better.
What did they used to call it before?
I have no idea. It's a really good question.
Sleeping quarters.
You can figure that out. Come tell us tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah,
Are you guys ready for the next word? Okay, everyone says not Shakespeare? Good. Not one of Shakespeare. Okay, you guys are good at this.
2 for 2.
It might get a little bit more difficult. Maybe.
2 for 2. We're gonna be in a
Okay.
hairy situation.
Alright, everybody says Shakespeare? Everybody is wrong. Sorry.
Alright,
Alright, next one. Addiction. You can't hold up 2 signs. Alright, everybody says Shakespeare? It is.
Yeah.
First use of Henry V. Good.
75%. It's a pass already.
Gossip. Okay, so we have 2 that say Shakespeare, 3 that say Shakespeare, and 1 that says not Shakespeare. It is. Alright. Assassination. Group 3 says Shakespeare. The rest of the group say not Shakespeare. Is one of Shakespeare's. Good job, group 3.
Got back up.
Alright, virus. Group 2, you have 2 signs up right now. Okay, not. It is not. Good. Countless. Alright, everybody says it's Shakespeare? Good, it is. You guys are really good at this. Laughable. Everyone says it is, except for group 4. And it is.
Yeah, but I was hoping.
Murder. What do you think, group 3? Okay, everybody says not.
Here it goes.
It is not. Good job. Cat.
Alright, I'm gonna be mad.
Shakespeare. It is not.
I told you guys.
We're filming her.
No, you guys had a
I know, we're splitting the breakers all splitting.
lonely.
Let me just take like 50. I'll give them to all the juniors.
What do you guys think about lonely?
Oh, it's like one person on one team.
Alright, everybody says Shakespeare? It is. Good.
Thank you, dear. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Insane. Everyone says Shakespeare?
Nope.
It is
Oh
not.
my god.
Disrobe. Disrobe.
No. Like, take it. Hey,
Hey, you guys, what do you guys think disrobe means?
someone go get this road.
Good, to undress. What are you saying? Shakespeare, not Shakespeare? It is not
I
Shakespeare.
told you.
But undress is a Shakespeare word. Isn't that interesting? So group 2 got a point for that one. Good job. Did you guys hear that? Undress is Wendy.
No, that's
No.
not.
Wait, no.
Boom, one son.
No, you play yours down.
Not, yes. Ooh. It is.
This kid did.
Class divided. Okay. Boom.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's like how me and McKay finished just one. Like,
So you guys say. Group 2, you have 2 signs up. Shakespeare, not. Shakespeare, not.
we never had successful.
It is. Oh, who said that? Who said it was? You guys said it. This is the last one, and we have a really close race. Group 2's in the league. Gloomy. Okay, we have 3 signs up. Ooh, I like that you guys go against the trend. Shakespeare, and not. It is. Okay, good job, you guys.
Second place.
So, what did you learn in this game? Who can tell me what they learned?
We learned about how Shakespeare made words that weren't there before.
Okay, Shakespeare made words that weren't there before. Thank you. Yes.
Did a lot of the words Shakespeare made are like now.
Call on her.
Caroline.
Sorry, I thought we were just
Mackenzie, you can
saying
say
it.
something next. Caroline.
I forgot what to say. Was I gonna say that? Okay, we can't tell.
That we can't tell.
It's like hard to tell which words in our daily lives are from Shakespeare but not.
Oh, good. Okay, so it's hard to tell which words in our daily lives are from Shakespeare and which words are not. Mackenzie.
That like a lot of the words, like we use now. Like, we use a lot of like chat. So
Good.
it's super modern.
Yeah, so we use a lot of gossip, right? You use some of these words all the time that Shakespeare invented. It also should really tell you that these words, the audience wouldn't have known, right? So a lot of even the really simple words, like bedroom, they would have assumed what a bedroom was. It's the room where the bed is, right? But that was a new word for them when Shakespeare used it in a play, okay? So hopefully that should give you a little bit of confidence. Hopefully that should give you a little bit of confidence going into reading Romeo and Juliet. Although some of the words are going to be difficult because they, mean something different now than they did then. They also, some of them are going to be really familiar to you, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. You guys will be going into that. All right. So this is just the list of words that that Shakespeare contributed.
Did you really
Some of these weren't on our list, like frugal, assassination, bedroom, countless, fashionable, frugal, eyeball, yeah. Cold-blooded, dawn, birthplace. Birthplace is a big one.
Wait, where's eyeball?
Eyeball's third to the bottom. Undress, outbreak.
Me and McCabe straight.
Okay. So what we're going to do now, hey group 2,
Take away.
what we're going to do now is I'm going to pass out this handout. It's called Actors Then and Now. And I'm going to show you 2 short clips from Shakespeare in Love. Has anybody seen Shakespeare in Love? Anybody? Wow, it's such a good movie. And it's going to show kind of what it might have been like in the 16th century for actors, okay? So this handout's asking you to think about what actors are like now and then what actors might have been during that time period, okay? People who would have acted on the stage.
Still a time period where guys play girls.
Yes, and we're going to see some of that in the clip, so that's definitely something you would want to write on this. So while you're watching the clip, you're welcome to start filling this out, and then we're going to talk about it after, okay?
One
Jaden Smith. He's better.
Yeah, I know about his sister.
Getting better at it.
Okay, so can I have your attention, please? So this movie is about William Shakespeare. This movie is about William Shakespeare, and it's sort of like him as Romeo and Romeo and Juliet a little bit. The girl who's played by Gwyneth Paltrow, has to be married to somebody else, and it's him falling in love with her and all this stuff. But this is the beginning of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, so what you're going to hear is the prologue, part of the prologue to Romeo and Juliet, and them acting it on a stage in what would have been the Globe Theater. So it's kind of cool because we're going to talk a little bit about the Globe Theater and about actors and actresses, or actors, in the 16th century, and what the Elizabethan theater was like later today or tomorrow, okay?